A man was poisoned by his best friend out of envy, just days before wealth came his way. The betrayal cost one life, and cost the other forever. Envy kills faster than poison. The two friends. In a quiet African village, where red dust danced on the roads and palm trees bent gently in the wind, two boys grew up together as though they were born of the same mother. Their names were Okoro and Dyke. From childhood, they ate from the same wooden bowl, swam in the same muddy stream, and hunted birds with the same catapult. To everyone, they were inseparable. People would say, Okoro and Dyke are like yam and palm oil, you cannot mention one without the other. As they grew into men, their lives began to take different shapes. Okoro, the calmer of the two, married a beautiful and patient woman called Adanma. She bore him children and filled his compound with laughter. Okoro also owned a piece of land near the village roadside, where the ground was flat and open. He farmed it with pride, planting cassava and yam, though the land was not very big. Dyke, however, was less fortunate. He too had once married, but his wife left him after years of quarreling and poverty. Alone and bitter, he turned to palm wine to fill the emptiness in his heart. While Okoro's evenings were filled with his wife's gentle voice and the laughter of children, Dyke's nights echoed with silence, broken only by the sound of crickets and the hollow clatter of his empty calabash. Still, the friendship remained. Every evening, Dyke would walk to Okoro's compound, and the two men would sit under the big mango tree. There, they shared palm wine, cracked jokes, and talked about their childhood memories. Okoro trusted him with everything. He never saw the shadow of jealousy hiding behind Dyke's smile. One day, news spread across the village like fire in Harmattan. A big network company wanted to buy land in the village to build a communication mast. The company promised to pay a huge sum of money, an amount no farmer had ever dreamed of. The villagers rushed to their lands, hoping theirs would be chosen. After inspection, only one land was declared perfect, Okoro's land by the roadside. The whole village rejoiced for him. They sang his name, slapped his back, and said, Okoro's star has risen. He will soon be the richest man in the land. Dyke too laughed, clapping his friend on the back. But as he drank palm wine that night, his heart burned with envy. In the silence of his lonely heart, a wicked thought was born: if Okoro collects that money, he will rise above me forever. No, he must not live to see it. That night, the seed of betrayal took root. For days after the announcement, Okoro's house was full of visitors. Men came to advise him, women came to admire Adanma, and children ran around shouting, Okoro will soon be rich. The company officials told him to prepare, for in 1 week they would sign papers and hand him the money. Adanma began to dream of a new zinc-roofed house, better clothes for the children, and maybe even sending them to school in the city. Okoro smiled at her dreams, promising her that their lives would soon change. But in another corner of the village, Dyke sat alone, drowning in bitterness. Every praise Okoro received pierced him like a spear. He remembered the days when they both struggled, when they both had nothing. Now, fate had smiled only on Okoro. If you enjoyed this story, to this point don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more amazing tales. Leaving him behind in the dust. His envy grew into anger, and anger grew into hatred. Why him and not me, he asked himself again and again, his mind darkening with every passing day. Yet Dyke continued to play the role of a friend. Each evening he came to Okoro's compound, drinking with him under the mango tree, smiling, laughing, and listening to his plans. Okoro spoke freely, not knowing that every word he said was feeding Dyke's jealousy. Adanma, though polite, noticed something strange. She whispered to her husband one night, "This your friend, his eyes are not pure when he looks at you. Be careful." But Okoro only laughed. "Oh, Adanma, you don't understand. Dyke is my brother, not just my friend. He can never harm me." The week of the deal drew closer, and Dyke's mind grew darker. He knew he had to act quickly. He thought of many ways to stop Okoro, setting fire to the land, reporting him to the elders, even fighting him. But none of this would succeed. Then one night, as he drank alone, an idea crept into his mind like a snake: poison. It was simple. Okoro trusted him. Okoro drank with him every night. All he had to do was slip poison into his drink, and no one would suspect. Dike sat in the darkness of his hut, smiling a wicked smile. When he dies, the land will remain. And who will they turn to next? Me, his closest friend. The money will not pass me by. His heart beat faster with the evil plan. And so, the seed of betrayal began to bear fruit. The next evening, Dike arrived at Okoro's house carrying a calabash of fresh palm wine. "My brother," he called cheerfully, "tonight we must drink specially. Your good fortune must be celebrated." Okoro welcomed him warmly, as always, and together they sat under the mango tree. Adamma brought out 2 wooden cups and placed them before them. She smiled and went back inside to attend to the children. Unknown to Okoro, Dike's calabash carried more than wine, it carried death. Before leaving his hut, Dike had poured into it a clear, deadly powder he bought secretly from a herbalist far away. As he filled the cups, his hands shook slightly, but he forced himself to smile. "Drink, my brother," he said, raising his cup. "May your wealth never finish." Okoro laughed, clinking his cup against Dike's. "And may you also find your own blessing soon." With that, he drank deeply. The sweet taste of palm wine filled his mouth, but hidden within it was the silent poison. The night passed with laughter and stories, just like old times. But as Okoro stood to return to his house, he felt a strange heaviness in his chest. His legs shook, and his breath caught. He waved it off at first, thinking it was just covered tiredness. Her husband with a cloth, she noticed his unusual weakness. She looked at Dike suspiciously, but he only nodded and left. That night, while the crickets sang outside, Okoro tossed and turned in pain. His wife prayed over him, unaware that death was already crawling through his veins. The rooster had not yet crowed when Adamma's cry tore through the quiet village. "Wake up, my husband. Wake up, Okoro." She shook him with trembling hands, but his body was cold and heavy like a sack of yam. His lips were dark, his eyes half open but lifeless. Okoro, the man of laughter, the hope of his family, lay still. Neighbors rushed in, they gathered around and shaking their heads. "This is strange," said one old woman. "Yesterday he was healthy, laughing with his friend. How can he die overnight like a goat struck by thunder?" Adamma wept, beating her chest and rolling on the dusty floor. Her children clung to her wrapper, crying loudly without fully understanding what had happened. The sound of mourning spread quickly. Within minutes the entire village was awake. Men, women, and children trooped into the compound to see for themselves. Dike was among the first to arrive. He pushed his way through the crowd, clutching his head dramatically. "Oh, my brother. My friend. Who has done this to you?" he cried, tears streaming down his face. He knelt by the body, shaking it as if he too was in pain. Many villagers wiped their eyes, moved by his performance. They said, "Dike loved him. Look at how he mourns." But inside his chest, Dike's heart was not heavy with sorrow, it was light with wicked satisfaction. His plan had worked. Okoro was gone. The land and the money would soon slip into his hands. Yet, somewhere deep within, a shadow of fear crept in. He had done the unthinkable, and though no one suspected him, the silence of the dead weighed heavily in the air. The next day, drums of sorrow echoed as Okoro's burial was prepared. Men dug a grave in the corner of his farmland, women wailed and sang dirges, and children watched silently, sensing the heaviness of death. Adamma's eyes were swollen from crying, her voice was gone. She sat on the bare ground, dust on her head, her wrapper loose and untidy. She looked like a shadow of herself. Dike played the role of the strong friend. He moved about, giving instructions, supporting Adamma, and speaking boldly as though he were Okoro's blood brother. The villagers praised him. Or, if not for Dyke, how would this woman cope? He is truly a good friend. Their words gave him more courage. He thought, very soon, they will also say, give him the land. Let him take care of the family. But Adanma's heart was not at rest. That night, she remembered the last evening with her husband. The strange weakness had started after he drank with Dyke. She recalled the way Dyke had insisted on bringing the palm wine. The way his eyes glittered strangely as Okoro drank. Fear pricked her heart like thorns. She whispered to her eldest son, something is not right. Your father's death is not ordinary. The burial day came. Drummers beat slow rhythms, and women sang songs of sorrow. Okoro was lowered into the earth, and the soil covered him forever. Adanma collapsed, crying, you promised me a new life, Okoro. You promised us better days. Why leave me like this? The villagers held her, trying to comfort her, but their own eyes were wet. As the last soil was heaped, Dyke placed his hand on the grave. His lips moved in false prayer, but inside his mind, he was thinking of the land and the money. The village believed he was a loyal friend standing by the family. Only Adanma, in her heart, suspected something darker. Life slowly returned to the village, but Okoro's absence was felt like a missing drum in a festival. His farm was quiet, his children moved about like shadows, and Adanma's laughter was gone. The land near the roadside, the very land chosen by the company, now stood in silence, as though waiting for its true master. The company officials returned a week later, expecting to meet Okoro. Instead, they met a widow dressed in faded wrapper, her eyes red from sleepless nights. Dyke quickly stepped forward. I am his brother, his closest friend, he said. I will handle the matter for the family. The officials nodded, but before they could say more, Adanma raised her voice. No. This land belongs to my husband and now to his children. Dyke is not family. He has no right. The officials looked uneasy. They decided to pause the deal until the village elders could settle the matter. The land was too valuable, and they could not risk disputes. Dyke clenched his fists in anger but forced a smile. Sister, we are one family, he said sweetly. But in his heart, rage burned. He had not killed only to be blocked. That night, Adanma could not sleep. She turned again and again on her mat, her heart restless. Her mind replayed her husband's last moments, the laughter, the palm wine, the palm wine, the sudden weakness. She remembered her own warning to him, and his reply, Dyke is my brother. He can never harm me. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered to herself, if Dyke truly betrayed us, God will expose him. And somewhere in the village, a whisper began. An old woman told her neighbor, did you notice? The man died after drinking with Dyke. Another man said quietly, it is strange. Healthy yesterday, dead today. The whisper spread like smoke in Harmattan. Though no one dared accuse Dyke openly, suspicion had begun to rise. Dyke, meanwhile, sat in his hut, drinking alone. He thought he was free, but his heart beat faster whenever he heard the whispers. He told himself, they cannot prove anything. The dead do not speak. But deep inside, he feared the silence of the grave. The whispers of suspicion grew louder until they reached the ears of the village elders. These were old men with grey beards, sitting every evening under the iroko tree, judging disputes and settling matters. One morning, the eldest among them, Ponana, sent word for Adanma and Dyke to appear. The matter of Okoro's land and sudden death could no longer be ignored. The people gathered in the village square. Women carried babies on their backs, men leaned on their walking sticks, and children sat on the ground, curious to see what would happen. Adanma came, her wrapper tied firmly around her waist, her face hardened by grief and suspicion. Dyke arrived too, trying to appear confident, but sweat glistened on his forehead. P. Enana spoke slowly, his voice heavy with age and wisdom. Okoro was one of us. He died suddenly, leaving behind land, a wife, and children. Now there is Korra. Before the company returns, we must know who will handle the land. He looked at Dyke. You claim to be like a brother to him. But some people whisper that his death was not ordinary. The crowd murmured. Dyke quickly raised his hands. Fathers, I am innocent. Okoro was my best friend. We drank together every night. I would never harm him. His voice trembled slightly, but he forced himself to continue. I only want to help his family. That land is too big for a widow to manage alone. Adama stepped forward, her voice sharp like a blade. The elders, listen. My husband was strong and healthy. He only became weak after drinking with Dyke. I warned him, but he said Dyke was his brother. Now he is dead. If my husband's ghost could speak, it would tell you who betrayed him. Her words struck the crowd, and a wave of murmurs rose. Dyke's face darkened. Ponana lifted his staff and silenced the noise. The gods do not sleep. If foul play was done, the truth will come out. Dyke, will you swear before the shrine of our fathers that you are innocent? At that question, Dyke's heart skipped. The shrine oath was feared by all. Whoever swore falsely would face sickness, madness, or death. His lips went dry. He stammered. But no words came. The villagers watched closely, suspicion now burning brighter than ever. That night, Dyke could not rest. Sweat poured from his body though the air was cool. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw Okoro's face, smiling, then turning dark with death. He tossed and turned, hearing whispers in his ears, "Brother, why did you do it?" The next day, he tried to avoid the elders, but the news spread. Dyke refused to swear at the shrine. People began to look at him differently. Some refused his greetings, others muttered as he passed. His name, once linked with loyalty, was now mixed with suspicion. He felt the walls of the village closing in. In his desperation, Dyke went back to the herbalist who had sold him the poison. He begged for charms to cover his tracks. But the herbalist shook his head. You cannot hide from the spirit of the dead. You poured poison into a cup of trust. Such a crime cries out louder than a drum. He gave Dyke no solution, only words that deepened his fear. Meanwhile, Adanma grew bolder. She spoke openly now, telling anyone who would listen that Dyke was not to be trusted. The villagers began to support her. Some remembered how quickly Dyke had rushed to take charge of the land, others recalled his trembling before the elders. The story of his betrayal spread like harmattan fire. Everywhere Dyke went, he felt eyes watching. His laughter dried, his confidence shrank. At night, his sleep was broken by dreams of Okoro standing by his bed, silent and accusing. Dyke began to drink even more, but the wine only made his fear worse. The poison he had given his friend was now poisoning his own mind. The elders gathered the whole village once more. The company had returned, but the land deal could not move forward. Ponana raised his staff. Dyke, swear at the shrine, or leave this matter forever. The crowd waited. Dyke's body shook, his lips dry. At last, he dropped to his knees, crying out, I cannot. I poisoned him. I could not stand his success. I slipped poison into his wine. Forgive me. The villagers gasped. Some spat, others shouted curses. Adama fell to the ground, weeping, Oh, Okoro, your own friend killed you. The elders declared Dyke banished. That night, he was driven into the forest with nothing. His name became a curse, his betrayal a warning. Peace slowly returned. The land money was given to Adama and her children, who built a better life. Okoro's grave stood as a reminder of trust broken. As for Dyke, no one saw him again. Some said he died in the forest, others that madness consumed him. But his end was certain, envy destroyed him. The elders told the story again and again: beware of envy. Beware of the friend who smiles too much when you prosper. And so the silent poison lived on, not in the cup, but as a lesson for all who heard. Learn to celebrate with others, not envy them. And be wise with trust. True friends prove themselves through actions, not word.